Hello everyone. Let's get some light in here. It is very early on a Wednesday morning now. And when I say early, I mean 9 a.m. It's early for me. I fell asleep at like 3 a.m. I don't know. I had an insomniac night. So last week I finished my finals for the 6th semester. I'm now currently on break and is working on other stuff and trying to find time to chill and just... But I wanted to do something a little bit special for this vlog because I recently discovered that there are people out there who are called author tubers, which is just YouTubers who are authors and actually vlog about their writing progress and writing process and what they're writing about, which just blew my mind. I did not know that that existed. Of course, it doesn't ever really matter what people are vlogging or talking about so long as the people themselves are interesting and funny. And one such YouTuber that I've been watching lately is called Kate Cavanaugh. She's really funny, really talented. It's a lot of fun to watch her adopt other people's writing process and showcase her own writing process. Now, I used to write a whole lot back in the day. As a matter of fact, I almost finished 2 books. One was a little bit shorter. It was called Valkyries, and I've since tried to adapt that idea into different story formats. That was like a 225 page book, like 75k word story. This is geared towards a younger audience, but something didn't like work with the novel. While Valkyries was a fantasy novel, I had a sci-fi novel in the works that I'd been working on for years called Infinitum, which was a, shall we say, epic sci-fi story that I stopped writing around page 860 something. Like, I don't know how many thousands of words I had written, but it was a long book and I was nowhere near completing it. But the reason why I stopped working on it was because just, again, something didn't fit, something just didn't match up, and I just didn't like it. Now, obviously, probably would have been better if I figured out that I didn't like it a little bit earlier, you know, somewhere around the 100 page mark. But it was a very good writing exercise for me. I learned a lot from that. Recently, though, I started playing around with the idea of merging these 2 worlds together. Because I have plenty of story ideas. I just need a world to base them in. So I did just that. I started picking and choosing things from the Valkyrie story and picking and choosing things from the Infinitum story and sort of blended it all together into one world. And I have this idea of writing a slant series where, you know, the books aren't necessarily in direct continuations of each other or don't necessarily have to be connected to each other. They always are just set in the same world. They can feature some of the same characters, the same locations, but you will be getting different stories with each book. That is to say, if I can't finish the first book. And since apparently it is a thing for people to just record their writing process, I thought to myself, why not just do that? I can just do that. I have a vlog already. Whoa, am I getting a vertigo attack? Oh, I think I am. I've been getting a lot of these lately. I haven't had them for like 6 months, and now in the past 2 or 3 days I've just been getting them a lot. And everything is spinning. Yes. Fuck. And I'm back. That was luckily a very short one. What was I talking about? Right, the story. I was talking about the story. So I've been sort of going back and forth on what the first story should be, because I figure it should be something that can stand on its own, but also have the potential to have stay in place beard, to also have ramification for future events in the world. And I've already known for quite a while who shall be the main characters of this first novel. Originally, I had thought of using the main characters from my Valkyrie story, or the latest version of my Valkyrie's story. But I honestly, the more I had worked on that story, the more I had found the villains in that story interesting. So they have become the new heroes of my stories, which will make them very morally ambiguous heroes. And I don't really intend to write them as either heroes or villains. I just like characters. So the name, the sort of working title I've been using for this series is Void Walkers. It takes place in this sort of shattered world, this sort of fabled land of the gods type of world. And all of the races that populate this world migrated there at some point in history. So we have the Altari, who are basically elves. We have the Arkans, who are basically just kind of aliens. We have the Dosku, who are dragon people. We have, we have the Wargs, the Vargs, who are the animal people. We have a bunch of different races, a bunch of different magic systems, a bunch of different religions, everything. I really love world building, and I can get kind of lost in that, but I feel like today I just need to sit down and start writing stuff. And one of the major plot points in this world is that the Altari, the elves, have a class of mystical warrior women called the Valkyries, which are from my other story, Valkyries. These genetically enhanced warriors can channel energy from the void. They are stronger and faster than normal people. They can live up to 300 years old, and each and every one of them has a unique talent, a unique ability that I specifically want to make. I want to make those abilities not something that's just going to be like, oh, this Valkyrie can conjure up fireballs. It is a very specific type of application, or is a very broad application, if you will. I would rather like to give all the Valkyries specific abilities that they will have to use creatively in order to get out of, guess people just be backing up outside. So their abilities will maybe work really well in certain situations, but not so much in other situations, which will have to make them use their abilities creatively. Now, the plot for this first novel will center around 3 Valkyries, mostly. Optima Lavender, Abra Attica, and Sevilla Alistair, soon to be known as Sevilla something else. These 3 Valkyries used to be part of a group of Valkyries who were closer than sisters. They were the bestest and closest of friends. And at the start of the novel, we see them in the aftermath where they have killed a monster, an Archon, which is like a demigod type of creature that the Valkyries are very well suited to hunt and kill. So at the beginning of the novel, we find them after having killed one such creature. This will be the kill that sort of jump starts their careers as Valkyries. This is what makes them famous and gives them a lot of power afterwards. So at the start of the book, they are still all very close, and the battle has only brought them closer. But then we jump about 20 years into the future, or into the present, I guess. We jump ahead 20 years, and we discover that similar murders to the previous Archon that they killed are being committed in the same area. So it looks like the Archon is back, which prompts all sorts of questions. Did they not kill the Archon? Like, what's going on? Is it like some weird copycat? However, during this 20-year period in between the start of the book and where the main events take place, The Valkyries, these 6 or 8 Valkyries that originally fought together and were in a close-knitted group of friends, they've since gone on to fight in wars and be forced to do all sorts of things that have put a major strain on their friendship. And because of these terrible things that they've been forced to do, they have kind of broken apart and are no longer talking to each other. But they are forced to come back in order to figure out what the hell is going on. And in order for them to be able to vanquish this new or old foe, they will need to somehow put aside their differences and learn to work together, which will not be as easy as it sounds, because that's the external struggle, them coming back to try and kill this fiend and trying to figure out if it's the old fiend or it's like something new that they're fighting. The internal struggle is them trying to come to terms with what they've done in the past and accepting their sins and somehow finding a way to forgiving themselves and each other in order to be able to work together to fight this new foe. Now, it's like I said, it's been a long time since I wrote for reals, so I don't really have any writing routines anymore. So instead of doing what Kate Cavanaugh has done, where she adopts other people's writing routines and see if they work for them, I feel like I need to figure out what my basic writing routine is before I start experimenting with other people's writing routines. And that means learning to use some new tools. So this is the program that I've been using up until this point. It's called Pages. It's a built-in Mac program. The way I used to work was I would have the chapter that I was working on here to the side, and then on this side I would have an assets list where I could list down characters, races, locations, whatever, anything related to the plot. Since then, I've discovered some new programs that I intend to be using. One of them is called Campfire. Campfire is a world-building program specifically. You can use it to create characters, write details about them. You can set up character arcs. Have not set up character arcs yet. You can create timelines. You can line them together however you like. You can also create encyclopedia articles where you can list down, for instance, here I have an encyclopedia article about the Valkyries, and I have listed characters who are related to this. I have an overview, I have an image of a Valkyrie, Liliana Lavender and Optimum when she was a child. And yeah, you could basically just do this for everything. This is such, you can add in locations. Like, this is such a game changer in terms of world building. I love this program. I will probably keep on using it for a while now. Another program that I've started using, or am starting to use today, instead of Pages, I am using a program called Scrivener. Now, Scrivener is a program that I discovered through Kate Cavanaugh because this is something that she uses to write, and this is something that a lot of writers will use when they're writing. They can set up chapters, they can set up individual scenes, they have their manuscript in general, and apparently it has a lot of tools that help you to discover what sort of writing mistakes you are using and stuff like that. So that is my intention. So I intend to use this program today as I'm writing. It is now 9:13. I had hoped to start writing at 9 specifically, exactly, but that won't be the case. It's fine, because I intend to be basically writing all day. So what I am going to do today is I am going to be using this program and Campfire to write the first few chapters of my novel. Now, I used to be extremely fast in writing. I am like a mix between a plan writer, where I plan ahead. I need to know where I'm going before I start writing. But I'm also sort of half of a discovery writer, where I will need to start writing in order to discover all the small little details in between those major plot points that I've already planned out. So when I start writing stories, I always need to know where it starts, where it ends, like 4 or 5 major plot points that link the beginning and end, and most importantly, I need to know the characters and what their journey through the story is going to be. It's very important. And luckily I have been working on this story for a while now. The whole coming back to hunt an Archon thing is sort of a new story, but the character arcs of the main 3 characters is not an old one. I've just basically retrofitted it into this new plot line because the old plot line wasn't entirely working. Because I feel like I need a smaller book to be the first one. Now what I might also do is write several first books and just have them all take place in this universe. So when I go and pitch them to publishers and literary agents, I will have several books that they can choose from. That's also an idea. Should probably stick with this book first. Right. Don't do what you always do. Don't start a million projects. Don't do it. So the way I'm gonna do this is that I'm gonna have Campfire open here on my my drawing tablet. I'm gonna use that as my screen number 2. Meanwhile, I'm gonna be working primarily in Scrivener here on my laptop, and I'm gonna kind of be going back and forth between the two to use Campfire to build up the world and write down details about characters and events, while using Scrivener to write the book itself. And I'm honestly just gonna go right ahead and just write the first chapter. The first chapter is gonna be The first chapter is going to take place immediately once they vanquish the Archon for the first time. And it's going to be the sort of pinnacle moment of their friendship and bond. And then the second chapter is probably going to jump ahead 20 years or so. And we will see that it kind of looks like the Archon has come back. And then the third chapter is probably going to be finding out where the characters are at this point in time. Now I have my main ally and confidant today in terms of writing and all creative ventures. I really do have an addiction to this. I really need to stop. Although I've been addicted to worse things, so not today. Alright, it is now 12:38. I've been working for about 4 hours, I guess. I've written the first 2 chapters. The first chapter was about 1,406 words, and the second chapter, 2,714 words. It's a pretty decent start. Obviously, these first chapters will need to be heavily edited, but at least I've gotten them down. I have a basis to work off of, and now I can go into the third chapter and truly start to work with the main characters and where they are in the main time period of the plot. And that is what I'm going to be working on when I get back from lunch. So I'm going to do lunch now. I'm going to make myself grilled ham and cheese sandwich, and then I am going to continue working after that. Like almost 4,000 words. A little over 4,000 words. I'm very good at math. Yeah. It's a pretty decent start.
for films where the main characters struggle to fight against something that cannot be challenged, a battle that technically can't be won. In short, movies that don't really have a happy ending.
It's 2:15 now. I had my lunch, and now I'm munching on this muffin, and I switched out my Monster for some Coke, because I'm just absolutely the epitome of health. So what I know about other people's writing routines is that they will, for instance, Stephen King, whom I'm a big fan of, what he will do is that he will wake up early, and then he will write until like 12 or 2, and then he will spend the rest of his day editing what he has written over that day. This is a very good plan, something that I absolutely should adopt, but I really do hate editing. I don't like going over stuff that I've written and just making changes and stuff like that. It's very important, and I should do that, but I kind of want to just keep on writing and get it. What I like to do is I like to get it all out and then read over it and edit it later as a whole. I guess that's the discovery writer part of me. So that is just exactly what I will do. I will continue to write chapter 3, or I will start writing chapter 3 and just see where it takes me. I intend to keep on writing until like 6, I guess. After that, I'll probably start editing this video and then enjoy the rest of my night off. So what I like to do when I'm writing is I like to listen to music, but I can't listen to music that involves singing and words and lyrics, because it just feels like somebody's talking to me while I'm doing a video. Thank you. Because it just feels like somebody's talking to me while I'm trying to write, which is very distracting. So what I like to do is I basically just listen to instrumental music, musical scores for movies and stuff like that. Stuff that specifically sets the mood. For instance, in chapter 2, it was kind of like a spooky chapter, because we're getting this creature, this archon, seems to be coming back, and it kills a little girl. Spoiler. And for like the first half of the chapter, I needed just something that captures the feel of being a child. It's a little bit of wonder, a little bit of like being stuck in doing just what your parents tell you to do. So I listened to some of Benjamin Wallfish's music, just kind of like jumping between songs, and then when the sort of horror aspect of the novel started to show, I switched over to the soundtrack of It, chapters 1 and 2, because they got a great soundtrack. Now, since I'm moving to a slightly different chapter, what I will probably be listening to, Dario Marianelli, where are you, buddy? And the soundtrack I'm going to be listening to is, goodness me, where the fuck is it? Oh, here we go. Jane Eyre. Now, this is a soundtrack from a movie that I have not watched. I've never seen Jane Eyre. Eyre? But I know that this specific soundtrack is excellent. It is par excellence. So that is what I'm going to be listening to now as I craft out what chapter 3 is going to be about. So it is 6:19 now. I've been working for a little while, although it did take a break because my mom called me around 3 or 4, I guess. And I just sat around and talked to my roommates for a little bit. Chapter 3 went well. I didn't entirely know what it was going to be about, but as I sat down and started writing it, it quickly began to make sense what it needed to be about. Although interestingly enough, as I was writing it towards the end, because I still wasn't entirely sure what the monster that the main characters are hunting truly is, whether it was the same monster or a new monster or whatever. But as I was writing this chapter, it kind of dawned on me what the whole thing is. And of course, I'm not going to reveal it here, but it's something it's like one of those things that just kind of like comes to you as you are working, as you are writing, as you're in the creative space. Sometimes the idea just kind of like pops in your head. You're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, let's go with that. So currently, Chapter 3 stands at 3,261 words, which is pretty good. So that means today I've written about 8,000 words, which is a lot. But these are all completely unedited chapters, and I will need to go over, especially the first 2 chapters, to amend certain details in order to be able to facilitate this new idea that I had about what the sort of external struggle is, what the monster is, and all that, because the devil's in the details. But yeah, today was a really productive day. I got a lot of stuff done, and it's fun. I love sitting around and writing and being creative. Although it's kind of curious to see how quickly the old habits come back. Because as I was sitting and writing, I could just feel the urge to take frequent breaks and have myself a beer and a cigarette, because that's what I did a lot of back in the day when I was writing. I would smoke a lot and I would sometimes drink a lot. Very bad habits to have. It's certainly something I do not want to relapse into, and I didn't. All that being said, I'm satisfied with my work today. I will need to reread over these 3 chapters, edit some stuff. I'm quite happy with Scrivener. It's a neat program. I will probably continue to use it. Campfire still remains a really good world building tool, and I will definitely continue to use that because it was fun to create character profiles and then create timelines, and you could link all that stuff together. So yeah, I will absolutely continue to use that. Before I'm done here today, I want to give out a quick shout out to Kate Cavanaugh, Jenna Moreci, and Ellen Brock, all of which are sort of author tubers and do videos about writing and the writing process and what to do and what not to do, and I've learned a lot from just watching their videos, so I want to give a quick shout out to them. I will link their channels in the description below, because all of them have about 1 million subscribers each, so they definitely need the shout out from me. All that being said, I am absolutely running out of space, so I will keep you guys posted on what happens with the project, and I will see you guys later. Now I gotta go and edit all this shit.